On today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, we're diving into the world of clean beauty innovation with Tricia Trimble, founder and CEO of Suntegrity Skincare, true pioneers in the mineral sunscreen space. Tricia shares how a personal mission to honor her mother's legacy evolved into a science-driven product line that's now trusted by estheticians, dermatologists, and conscious consumers nationwide. We unpack the complexities of formulating effective zinc oxide-based sunscreens, the evolving FDA regulatory landscape, and the real-world challenges of scaling a brand without compromising on safety or sustainability. From biodegradable packaging to SPF layering techniques, Tricia brings an insider's view of what it really takes to stay compliant, competitive, and consumer-focused in a highly regulated, fast-moving market. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stephanie Lahart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. And today on the Wild Party Podcast, I am talking to Tricia Trimble, the founder and CEO of Suntegrity Skincare. Tricia started Suntegrity in honor of her mom, who passed away from skin cancer, and she turned her grief into a mission to create safe, effective sun care that doesn't compromise on health or sustainability. So we're going to talk about how she built the brand from the ground up, the challenges of formulating reef-safe products, and how she stayed true to her values while growing a loyal customer base. Tell me about this beautiful mineral sunscreen that is going to take care of my skin, reverse all the aging, and make my life better. Because that's what a product should do, right, Tricia?
That's right. I'm just like you too. I never leave home without sunscreen. It's we're both pale and we both live in warm, sunny locations. I used to live in LA. I'm actually in Las Vegas now. So the sun, it's like 105 today. So I can't go anywhere without it.
Yes, I adore the sun. I love living in sunny weather, but you have to use proper sunscreen. So with that said, let's talk about you and what led you to build this beautiful brand called Suntegrity. You know, I've heard some of the backstory about your mom, and we're going to get in all of that. But before you decided to launch this brand, Tricia, what were you doing? What kind of business were you in?
So before I started sunscreen, I had nothing to do with sunscreen, actually. I was a recruiter or headhunter for accounting and finance professionals. I started my career as a CPA and then I became a recruiter. So basically like a matchmaker for CPAs and accountants and finding them jobs. And then about almost 10 years in, I just kind of had that feeling like this isn't calling to my heart anymore. Like I really enjoyed it and loved it at the beginning, but then I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I have a hard time doing something that I don't love. So I decided, believe it or not, to quit my job, sell my shares. I owned part of a recruiting firm. So I sold my shares of the company, sold my house. I went and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment and thought, I don't know what I want to do, but I love skincare. And I thought maybe I wanted to open a spa. But the CPA in me was smart enough to know, you better know what you're doing before you go opening a spa and spending thousands of dollars and then losing it. So I ended up going back to school, studying everything that interested me. So I went and got my esthetician license, massage therapy. I went to coaching school. I got a master's in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. And it was actually that program that spurred on Suntegrity, because Suntegrity was my school project So it was a master's program. It was kind of like a thesis project, and you had to pick something that called to your heart. And it was kind of a healing of grief project for me, really. As I had lost my mom to melanoma. I probably hadn't processed it. I mean, it happened when I was 16. And it's one of those things where it's, easy to kind of just pretend it didn't happen, even though it did. I don't know. Grief is a weird thing. It just takes time. And so, yeah, it was a school project at USM. It started as a beauty website and me thinking I wanted to open a spa. And then as part of that was I wanted to start my own product line. And it started as actually body butters. But then when I was done with that part of the project, I was like, I didn't launch it because I just thought, this is just like everything else out there. There's nothing that special about it. And then I'm always telling people wear sunscreen, how important it is. And I was religious about that and like a preacher about sunscreen pretty much. And I realized that's what I'm supposed to do. Do something with sunscreen because that's what really calls to my heart and I'm excited about it. And at the time, I had come across a report by the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. They had a sunscreen guide, and it was saying how toxic most of the drugstore sunscreens were or are still. And that kind of put me on the path of, wait a minute, I've been wearing all these sunscreens, telling people to wear sunscreen, and they're not good. I need to make one that's good. And so that's how it all started. It's kind of a long-winded answer to your short question.
Listen, on a podcast, we love long-winded answers. There's
Okay.
nothing worse than asking a guest a question and they answer with yes or no. And then you sit there awkwardly smiling at them like, want to add anything
More
else?
to it. Yeah.
So yes, that is quite a journey. There is a lot in there.
There's a lot.
And but I love it because what you did was, when you found you weren't happy with your current profession, you really went on an expansive kind of fact-finding mission, like an educational journey for yourself. Like, what else do I want to do that would make me happy as I also make a living, which I think is so important. That's honestly one of the things that led me to start my podcast because I did, just marketing forever. And I had a lot of friends in podcasting, and it was just something I'm like, I think I'd like to do that. I did have interviewing in my background, which we'll talk about at a whole nother time. But what I'm saying is, if you find something you love, it does feel very enjoyable, even when you shoot or record 5 podcasts in one day. Yes. So
you have to have the passion for it. Otherwise, you could fizzle out because there's a lot of mountains and hurdles you have to overcome and being an entrepreneur and starting something new. So if you don't have that passion for it, it's really hard to do.
It's true. And then the entrepreneur journey is one that is filled with ups and downs and definitely a lot of work, but very rewarding because I couldn't think of anything worse than just sitting in an office in somebody else's office, like just doing something I don't care about. So at least with this, we have fun. Okay. So you said this whole idea was launched during one of your class projects. Yes. Exactly what was going on in that project? Were you just developing like a brand idea or a product idea or a business idea? Or did they really take you through the steps of figuring out your spreadsheets and your financing and how you build a company? Or did that come later for you?
That came later. It was more, so we broke everything into what we would call a 3-foot toss. And the premise is that if you have like a ring toss, if you try to toss it from far away, you never make it. You're like barely ever do you hit it, the ring on the thing. So, but if you take every 3 feet, you toss it, you're more likely to hit it. So we had a project group and that gave us accountability, and we would say what we were planning to accomplish, each month. And then we would meet regularly with our group and make sure we were taking 3-foot tosses to our goals. And so it started more, like I said, I thought I wanted to open a spa. So I was interviewing spa owners. I was, like I said, I went to esthetician school and massage school to see if that was something I liked doing because I wanted to know every aspect of the business. And then I actually started a beauty website because that was going to be the store in the spa, but I started it online because my neighbor had an online store and that was really new back in the day. Like, I started this back when you had to program your own websites or hire programmers. We didn't have this plug and play, easy, you can start a website in 5 minutes kind of a deal like you can today. So it started out as beauty website. And then I was selling products that were cleaner. I don't know, clean industry was just kind of coming along then. And then that's when I came across the EWG report and I started selling the sunscreens that they said were not toxic. And I got feedback of what people liked, didn't like. I had my own opinions about the packaging and the feel and the texture and the look. And I was like, I don't like these. I'm going to create my own. And that's, and that those little tosses, each one led to the next thing and a lot of synchronicities. I was at a coaching event and I overheard a man talking, and I was actually looking for a chemist at this point, and he sounded like he was a chemist. And believe it or not, he was. And so I like approached him. I said, "Hey, I'm trying to start a sunscreen line. Could you introduce me to some people?" And so that he helped me. He was a mentor for a while, and he introduced me to one of my labs. And that was a coaching event, like nothing to do with sunscreen. So it was all very synchronistic. And intention. Like I had my intention of what I wanted, and that's how it kind of manifested over time.
Okay, so you said this has been like in production for a long time. When did you actually launch Suntegrity then? How long has this business been?
Suntegrity's been around since our first product was 2010. So 15 years. Yeah. Clean beauty literally was just beginning. Credo beauty didn't exist. Detox Market, we were one of their first products. They opened on Abbott Kinney in a small little store, and I was one of the first brands in there.
Wow, that's amazing. You were one of the true pioneers of this
Yes,
space.
we're like an OG of the clean sunscreen.
Amazing, amazing. So talk to me then a little bit about, so you met this guy at the coaching event and you knew you needed to find a chemist. Like you knew, like, I can't mix this up at home. In fact,
Yeah.
I just learned from a previous guest, also as a sunscreen brand, that she said that it's actually considered what is it, pharmaceutical? A
It's
drug, right?
That's an over-the-counter drug, an OTC drug. So you have to have an FDA approved lab making your products. There's all kinds of standards. There's all kinds of tests, and there's tons of testing that goes on. So even if you want to change your packaging, you got to redo all these tests because you have to prove that it will be stable in that new packaging. So, changing a tube is no easy task.
Wow, I wasn't even aware of all that. That's amazing. So you can't change anything. All right, so let's talk about then when you were starting to create this product and you were looking for chemists, like what was most important to you about this? Because you mentioned something about texture and feel and things like that. What specifically were you looking for in this product that you had not found out in the world yet? Like that wasn't out for sale
The
yet?
number one thing was I knew from this EWG report, their sunscreen guide, like very few passed what they said were okay based on ingredients. So to me, the most important thing was my ingredients had to be clean. And and so the way I knew was I would put the ingredient in and see what the EWG said. And if they said it was good, we're like, okay, we can keep that one. If they said it was bad, I'm like, I got to find an alternative. So ingredients was number one. I wanted clean ingredients. I wanted the sunscreen to be mineral. So it had to be zinc oxide based. That's what our whole line is based on, being zinc oxide based. And then I also didn't want it to be too white. I didn't want it to be greasy. So that all that texture stuff came into play next, but ingredients was number one.
Yeah, definitely within the mineral sunscreen area, the texture is really like number one for a lot of people, myself included. If it feels like I can't really get it on my skin, it doesn't apply smoothly, I'm like kind of out, like, it's too much work. I'll try, something else.
And our whole thing is we do multitasking products to make your life easier. So, it's like skincare, makeup, all in one. So, you put it on. I wear either the 5-in-1 tinted sunscreen or Impeccable Skin every day, and that's like the last thing I put on my face and walk out the door. But I don't really wear much makeup after that. It's just like some blush and lipstick, and mascara. But that is my foundation.
I'm that girl too. I am that girl too. I am just, give me some tinted sunscreen, maybe a little bit of mascara, maybe like a tinted lip gloss, also that has a sunscreen in it. And that's my face for the day.
We had one of those. We have actually a balm now, but yeah, we had a lip gloss at one point in time.
Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, it's just, or I'll just put a little bit of my face sunscreen on. It's fine, whatever, on my lips. But I mean, that's it. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to have 15 layers on my skin all the time either.
That's a lot of extra time and effort. Like, no, I just rather look more natural, but
yeah,
but better.
And also just the fact that you're layering all these different ingredients also concerns me. It's like, how are they interacting? In fact, I'll mention, I just actually was using this morning a vitamin C serum that I've used in the past that I really liked.
Okay.
And I was putting on a fairly newer sunscreen over it. And I did sit there and wonder, I'm like, is
Ew.
this okay? Like,
Oh, okay.
how would I know? I don't know if they're going to interact with each other. So I was super nervous, right? So do
Well,
you go
sometimes you
through?
get pilling too, and now you're like, great, I got to start all over, with your whole routine because if it starts pilling up, do you know I'm talking? Have you ever had that
Oh,
happen?
yeah. Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. So is that something then when you're looking in your formulation, are you really looking at your ingredients to make sure they're not reacting with other things as well?
Um, well, mostly because you would use if we're layering, we usually like people to layer our face primer with our 5-in-1 tinted or our impeccable skin. So they interact fine together.
Right.
But what they choose other products,
No, I was just wondering since it's labeled as a drug, were there certain things that they say you can't have in a sunscreen because it could potentially, interact with other things? Like because you don't know what people are going to put on your face. Like was there an ingredient specifically that it's like you could never use this in a sunscreen because potentially it could do this, but I guess that's just something in the chemistry they figure out as you go.
well, there is an ingredient that started to you didn't want it in sunscreens is retin A. You don't want retinol or retin A in
Right.
sunscreen, so that's kind of one of them. So we didn't put any of that in ours. But as far as the other ingredients go, I mean, it depends on is it a water and oil emulsion or oil and water emulsion, and then
Mhm.
what blends well with that. So yeah, luckily we have chemists because I don't know too much about that. I go down rabbit holes of chemistry all the time, and I've taken some cosmetic chemistry classes at UCLA. But it's the chemists do all the trial and error and make sure it all stays together, and that's what all the stability testing comes into play because it has to. They heat it up to super high temperatures. They freeze it. They heat, freeze to make sure it'll be able to withstand going in trucks 105-degree temperature leaving Las Vegas and going somewhere else, say to Canada, and it has to be able to make the trip and all that. So there's tons of testing that goes on to make sure it can withhold heat and cold and all of that.
That's so true. And that's not something like even I think about. It's like the whole transportation. What is that product going to endure between
Yeah,
the time it leaves the factory to the time it gets to my house? Because it's so random. You have no idea. And those trucks are
exactly.
very hot.
Oh, those trucks they like 15 degrees hotter than whatever the temperature is it's in. So like if it's
Right.
115 in Vegas, it could be 130 in that truck.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yes, they withstand all that. So I'm glad we have good chemists.
Yeah. Thank God for the chemist. So when you were ready to launch this product, you had decided I'm going to do the sunscreen. What was the next step then to actually get it off the ground? Did you bootstrap? Did you look for investors? You said you had quit your job. So did you have any income while you were trying to launch this? I mean,
Uh,
it is not cheap to launch a business, Tricia. We all know this. Where
no.
was the money coming from?
So when I sold my townhouse, and luckily I bought in California, so there's you make money when you sell in California. So I had some money saved, and I don't like owing people anything, so I want to be able to stay true to my values. And if I have a lot of investors that are pushing me to like for the bottom line to be good or something, they may if they have 51% interest in the company, well, now my opinion doesn't matter anymore. And so I actually never took investment money. I used my own money the entire time, still do. And I started with one product, and that was our face sunscreen primer, which was an Allure Beauty Best of Beauty Award winner way back in 2014, I think it was. Yeah, I think that put us on the map. And so we started with that one product, and then we launched a body sunscreen after that. And then my best friend really wanted a tinted sunscreen, and she has darker skin, and so we launched the tinted sunscreens after that, which I think those are our number one products.
Yeah, I love it. I love tinted sunscreen. Yeah, she's probably like, "Hey, Trisha, just whip up this new product for me." You're like, "Oh, no problem.
Yeah, like it's
Let me go
really
work on
easy.
that right now."
Well, and the funny thing is, our lab didn't want to work. They didn't want to do colors because they're a sunscreen house. They're like, we don't do a lot of colors. But I begged them, and they finally started working with some colors. But we had a limited range in the beginning, and
Mhm.
that's why we ended up having to start another product called Impeccable Skin. In order to get a bigger range, we had to go to a different manufacturer that worked better with color.
Oh, I see. You're like, well, we'll take our business elsewhere.
Well, we kept both. We kept
Yeah.
both because it's always good to, well, you have different people like different things. So one's a tinted sunscreen, so the other one's more like makeup. So you have
Oh.
to be a little bit more concerned about a color match. So we have like 7 shades in that range versus the other one with 4, but it's a lot more forgiving because it's more like tinted sunscreen versus in our Impeccable Skin is more like a sunscreen foundation.
Right, right. That's so interesting. So from there, then okay, I have to ask this. Did you reach out to Allura or how did they find out about you guys?
This is what's so incredible. Somehow they found us. What it was is, I believe the editor at the time was, her name's Patricia. I can't remember her last name. Bad. And she was in the detox market and got it there and loved it. And so somehow we won this award because she actually found it, not because we paid for it. It came in the mail. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we just got an Allure Best of Beauty Award. Like, I was just shocked. Like, it was so exciting.
Okay, I'm glad you just mentioned the we did not pay for it part. Here's why. So when we sit there and say 2014, we think, well, that's 10 years ago, but so much has changed in 10
now
years.
it's pay to play everywhere.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I was under the impression now pretty much you see any of those top beauty lists,
Yes.
either in a print magazines or even on these morning news shows. I'm pretty sure they're getting marketing money for it. And I know this because I'm a marketer, because I've pitched stuff.
Yes, and we can't afford it. That's why we're still a pretty small brand because we don't have outside investors. Like I said, it's still my money. And like, I'm just like, it's $5,000 for this one little ad or 17,000. I mean, we can't afford to play with the big boys. So we're a word of mouth brand. And luckily we sell a lot mainly to estheticians. And direct to consumer, and estheticians educate their customers, and they have the time to educate them. And our sunscreen is an education process. It's not, if we sell at Nordstrom, we just don't do well in those environments because there's no education going on. So a customer just, why is ours better? They don't know. They just know the other one goes on super easy, and well, there's a reason that if you're using chemicals, they go in your skin way easier. They're super thin. They feel like they're not on. Mineral sunscreen is a little bit different.
It absolutely is. So do you find that people in the beauty industry, like estheticians and skincare professionals, have been part of like your biggest, I guess, we'll call them your influencer marketing as far as getting the word out? 'Cause you're right. It's a lot of testing at points where you have to educate the customer, like what the difference is, why it works for them. If anybody's ever been to a spa, they always are like, these are the products that we used on you, and you can buy them as you exit through the gift shop.
Well, and it really helps to have estheticians because they're educated on skin. They know what's best. And if they wear it themselves and love it, then they will talk about it to their customers. And our products are also oncology aesthetics approved. So a lady Becky Kuhn, who teaches estheticians how to work on oncology patients, she uses our sunscreens, and they're part of her trainings as well. So she knows the ingredients we use are good, and that she knows about skin. And so it's all these little contacts that we've made along the way, and the fact that they usually are pretty high integrity people as well, and they talk about what they like. So
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the oncology point, because in my previous lifetime, my careers, I actually ran a breast cancer foundation called Busted Foundation. And we did an event every year that actually became a national event called Bowling for Boobies. And it was a fundraiser, obviously,
awesome.
For women that were dealing with breast cancer. We'd raise money and then give out financial grants to the women to help them pay all the residual bills that their insurance wasn't paying, or even if they needed stuff like transportation costs or help with rent and all that. And, when I was in that world, there was a lot of conversations with these women about they were very scared as they're going through their oncology journey of using any products. And many of them did go on to start actual, product lines themselves of, how can we remove these chemicals? Now, I will let you know that was at this point a good 15 or more years
Isn't that
ago.
crazy how
We
time goes
actually,
so fast?
yeah, but we actually launched Busted Foundation in 2007. I mentioned that because it still amazes me. We still have to have the conversation of, are these chemicals okay? Could they
Yeah.
cause cancer? I feel like this should have been figured out a bit more like of a forefront of what we do. So I'm excited when I see products like yours that are not only vegan and cruelty free, but you've put that thought process in place of like, this also is trusted by people in the oncology field
Mhm.
because products can mess with your endocrine system. It
Yes,
can
they
mess
can,
with your cell
especially sunscreen.
structure. And people don't realize that. So, we had mentioned earlier in the show about your mom passing away from melanoma. Tell me a little bit about like that. Was she suffering from skin issues because of sun damage, or was this something genetic or hereditary, or what was happening with your mom?
So I think it's partially genetic, and then partially my aunt said my aunt also got melanoma, but luckily she's still alive and caught it early. But that's her sister. She said that they went out when they were younger to the beach and they got burned. They got a really bad burn.
Always.
And they say that, just only a couple burns, really bad ones, can increase your melanoma risk by a lot. So we think it could have been that caused it. She also drove a lot for her work because she was in sales. And so when you're driving, the left hand is getting sun damage through your window unless you have tinted windows with the UV protection, which I doubt she did. And that's where she got it here, was on her left hand. And so they attribute it to driving. So I don't know if it's like just driving, if it had to do with that sunburn, if it's partly hereditary. It's like all these kind of factors can combine. She had light skin, light green eyes. So, part of it could just, you're more susceptible. Here we are, like our genetics were made for being in England and Ireland, yet we live in Las Vegas and California where there's sun nonstop. So our skin wasn't made for being here. So it really needs that extra protection.
Well, you basically just guessed my genetic background. I am English, I am Irish, I am Scottish,
We
I
look
am
kind of
all the
similar, so I
issues.
figured that was the case.
I am like the fairest girl ever, which is funny. But I also am really glad you mentioned sunscreen on hands. I wish I knew that earlier because
I
I
just watched
have,
all the
and
aging shows. I like put my face to, I'm like, oh, my hands are showing my age.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you guys are watching the YouTube version of this podcast right now, I'm showing my hands. I have so many age spots. And now, let me tell you, before I even put sunscreen on my face, I lather it on my hands. And then I also carry a bottle with me that I just am putting on all the time every time I'm in my car because your windshield is like a magnifying
Yes.
device, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm
the sun
constantly
damage
the
comes in
left
through the
side. I
windows.
can't believe you said that because the left side, it's just sunscreen, 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 hands, hands, hands.
Have you ever seen that picture of the truck driver? I use this for education purposes. There's a truck driver, never wore sunscreen. One half of his face looks, I swear, 20 or 30 years older than the other half.
I
There's so
believe
many
it.
wrinkles. You could just type in sunscreen truck driver, and
Yeah.
it's like it was a dermatology study or something. Yeah, it's crazy. So when
Yeah.
people like spend all this money on lasers and anti-aging creams, and I'm like, what do you mean you're not wearing sunscreen?
Yeah.
That's like the
Sunscreen.
number one anti-aging product, bar none. And
Trisha, I literally say that to girls in their 20s all the time. I'm like, sunscreen. Oh, you'll laugh
sunscreen.
actually. I just started working with a client. I had to go in his office a few times. There was a little girl there, not a little girl, but 20. She was about to turn 25. I gave her a tube of sunscreen.
Oh, good. Because
Yeah,
yes, I'm like,
unfortunately, I
I
didn't
would
know
have
about
they don't wear
Suntegrity. I would have
sunscreen.
given her Suntegrity, so I'm going to have to go back, order some Suntegrity, and give her that one instead.
It's like, well, and that's the other thing is that people think sunscreen, just sunscreen is sunscreen. It doesn't make a difference. I'm like, no, you need to turn it around, look at the drug facts box, at least look in the actives. Is it say zinc oxide or does it say, oxybenzone, octinoxate, homosalate, avobenzone? What does it say? Because there's only two ingredients that actually will protect you from the UVA rays, like the full range. It's zinc oxide and then a chemical sunscreen, avobenzone. So if you've got to have one of those in there to make sure you're getting that full UVA protection. And UVA is what ages you.
Yeah.
Causes skin cancer. I mean, all UVA and UVB cause skin cancer, but UVA, ages you, and that's what most of us see. We mostly seem to care about aging versus getting skin cancer because we never think we'll be the one. But
That's very true. Okay, so with that said, because you seem to be very good on the marketing side, do you have T-shirts yet that say "Wear sunscreen"?
we should, but
You
no,
really
that's a
should.
good idea.
In fact, I just want the shirt to just say "Sunscreen."
It should say "got sunscreen."
Got sunscreen. I would wear that shirt. Please make them. Send me some. It'll be great. All right. I almost did something that I've never done in my whole life. I was going to go for a spray tan because I was going on a family trip and I didn't want to show up my normal pasty white. Not that my family cares. I ended up not doing the spray tan, but I started looking for an option. So, what do you have for me as an option to do a tan that is not a spray tan, like that I would go somewhere for?
So we have two things. We have tanning drops, which you can take your regular lotion and then drop them into it. And you can, the more you drop in, the more the tanner you're going to get. But this is a nice buildable option. I like to use this one on my face. So that way you put a little bit and then the next day do a little bit more. And then you can see how tan you're getting and just keep, like I said, doing it daily. But for the body, I love our tanning lotion. It's a a 5 ounce tube that we have, and you apply it. There's a trick with using tanners though. What you want to do is put lotion on any area where you have more skin, like your knees, your elbows, your wrists, and you want to use lotion there first and then put the tanner on and then use lotion there again at the end. This will make it so that you don't get that streaking or that really weird kind of effect where you're tan in one spot and not another. Our tanner is great because it smells good. Most tanners stink. And, everybody around you is like, oh, you smell bad. Ours doesn't smell because we use a saccharide ferment that basically eats bad scents. It's used in natural deodorants. And when I came across it, I was like, this would be great for a tanner. So we put it in our tanner. We also use a natural strawberry scent. So it's, you've got that bad smell being taken away. The bad smell comes from dihydroxyacetone, which is used in all tanners. It's what makes you tan. It's not bad for you, but it just doesn't smell great. So that saccharide ferment takes the bad smell away. A little bit of strawberry makes it smell good. And now you have tan and look good and smell good and everything.
Well, I am so intrigued. You're right. Usually those self tanners I never use because of that weird smell. And I'm very sensitive to smells. And I'm like, oh, I can't stand that. And I was always wondering, can people smell this on me? So now I'm super intrigued to start a self tanner. So I think that will probably be my first purchase off the website.
It's a cream color, so it doesn't go on your sheets. So that's good too.
Fantastic. That is awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Let's go back to the business though. So when you were first starting, they always say like the first 5 years for an entrepreneur is the hardest. What was your experience like? You launched the product, you've got your chemist, Allure has found you. What was that like for you as far as the building process, the scaling process, as to where you were and where you wanted to be at that time?
So in the beginning, well, because we didn't get the award till the 2014. I think that put us on the map, but it was really hard up until then because here's this brand called Suntegrity. Nobody knows who we are. We're up against all these other nobody even knows the difference between mineral and chemical at this point in time. And, it's hard to get in any retailers or anything. So I was like door to door going to the beauty places where I lived, Redondo Beach, and trying to get it into the different places that, did facials and things like this. I was like, okay, we could do consignment because that's a win-win, right? If it's consignment, you don't pay me anything till you sell it. So there you go. And my biggest marketing was that we made the EWG sunscreen guide, our very first product. I designed it so that it would get a 1 on the scoring, and it did. And so that was kind of what I used as my marketing. I said, hey, look, here it is. We made a 1 on here. And that was actually how we ended up getting a lot of sales, is because people read that report and we were on there.
Wow, that's so smart of you to do that.
Yeah, so that was the whole goal. Like, because I ran the beauty website first and I realized that, people are buying these sunscreens once I had them to sell. And so this report has a lot of clout. And, I only wanted to wear something that passed on that report too. So, that's how we ended up getting our initial sales, I believe, is because we got a 1 rating on the EWG, and then people read that report, and then I had it on, I put it for sale on Amazon. So Amazon has a lot of users, and I went, like I said, door to door, knocking on the doors to get it in places.
To get it into all of like those beauty establishments like salons
The
and
little beauty boutiques that are around.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the Allure kind of got us on the map. And then clean beauty stores started popping up. So we were in the detox market. And then, when another clean beauty store was going to open, they copied what they did and got all the same brands. So then we started going into all the clean beauty stores, all over. They started popping up all over the nation. So that's it was like I said, it's word of mouth, and just I met the founders of Credo at the Natural Products Beauty Expo West way back when, before they had opened. And their founder loved it and brought it in.
So what are some of the challenges that you've really, come up against in your last 15 years of launching this amazing skincare brand?
Oh boy. Let me count the ways. No. um, Regulations have been changing, and there's just been they're getting tighter and tighter, and there's more and more filings that need to be done. So when you're a really small team, it really taxes the amount of things you can do. So instead of spending time marketing, we're spending time filing all these new forms for different regulations. And one of the things that happened that was really a struggle is when the CARES Act came out around COVID. There was actually sunscreen regulation in that, which I don't understand why, but it was in there. And most people don't know about this, but they had a new fee schedule, and they started billing labs based on this. And so some of the labs they're smaller labs, there was no exceptions for smaller labs. So they had to pay the same as bigger labs. So a lot of them stopped making sunscreens because they just can't afford to do it. So we lost one of our labs that used to make our powder and our lip gloss. They stopped making sunscreens. So we lost those 2 products, and it's been a struggle to, bring those back. So that, and then the regulations, the federal regulations now are sometimes different than the state regulations, and the states are different from state to state. So it's just a lot of work to try to keep up with who you have to file with and what you have to file and what the laws are. And yeah, it's hard for small business.
It is, and that's what we call some of the hidden cost of, launching your own small business. There are these things that creep up that you just didn't expect. And also, as regulations change, like you said, that suddenly now there's a new filing. It's like, oh, well, that wasn't there before. So it definitely is a little tricky, and almost, makes you want to fight a little bit harder, because she's like, you won't stop me with that CARE Act. I will keep going. I'm Tricia.
Oh yeah, we're coming out with that powder again. It's just taking us a while.
So you've definitely been in this game long enough to know that it's always changing. So not only, did you decide that you were going to do this to make it EW, #1 and everything, but you took it a step further because you also are really into the sustainability now as well. And maybe that was from the beginning too. So, talk to me a little bit about what that means for the product. Are we talking, sustainability in the supply chain, in the ingredients, in the packaging? And also, we want to hear about what's going on with the reef friendly, because you are certified reef friendly now.
So sustainability has always been a thing for us from the get-go. Like, we've never used external boxes, like secondary boxes, because those always just get thrown away. So as much as we can, we don't use them. We've recently had to start using them for our products that are in glass, because glass is obviously going to break if it's not boxed. But like our tubes, everything, it's just the tube. We don't sell it in another box. So we're saving that. We've always used the packing peanuts that are biodegradable, boxes that are just plain recyclable boxes, so that the name's not all over it, so you could use it again if you want to. And then more recently, as the time has gone on and packaging has changed and become a more viable option to use PCR and like sugarcane and things like that, that's where we've gone. So we've had some tubes that have sugarcane. It's like basically the equivalent of plastic, but they're using sugarcane in it. We've gone to 40% PCR packaging on our tubes for our face sunscreens. And then we've moved into glass for our skincare type products. So pretty much it's sustainable all across on the packaging line. And then as far as ingredients go, like I said, our active ingredient, which is usually about 20%, is zinc oxide, which is non-nano, which means it won't destroy the reefs and it's good for your health. Because nano-sized particles are not good for the reef, and the chemical sunscreens are not good for the reefs. So it's sort of been sustainable all along in all aspects, and then we just keep getting better as technology goes.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we are talking about the reef situation because people don't consider it's like you lather yourself with sunscreen, you jump into the ocean maybe. It's like some of that does wash off, right?
Yes. A lot of it.
Where does it go,
Mhm.
right?
I know.
Into the water.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to be much more thoughtful. Like you said, now it's like, well, what is actually happening with our ingredients maybe once they are leaving the skin? So I did notice that immediately when I saw, looked at your website that you had this reef friendly mentioned. I was like, oh, that's so great because I don't hear a lot of brands mention that unless they're doing some big working with an ocean charity push. But you very,
Well,
nonchalantly just said reef friendly. I'm like, great.
the other thing is there's a lot of, so I saw the other day, I was out and about, and I saw a sunscreen and it was reef friendly or Hawaii reef compliant or something. And I was like, Hawaii doesn't allow, like Maui doesn't allow any of the chemical
Mm.
sunscreens. So it's not really Hawaii. It's compliant per that one act, right? But there's certain places where they're even more strict, and so it's not really compliant. And yeah, so there's no rule around it, I guess you could say. So um, what I would prefer to see, if you could see, if you're going to go swimming, it would be use zinc oxide. You don't want to use any of the chemical sunscreens because they are going to go back into the ocean and hurt the.
So we can all look like lifeguards with
Yes.
our
But
white
we can
nose.
tint it. Now we can tint it. So it's a
We
lot
can
better.
tint it. Exactly. Well, you've definitely grown a very loyal and vocal community online. People are still asking for you. You've been around long enough that people trust you, which is amazing. So tell me a little bit about how your marketing has evolved. You and I talked very briefly, I think maybe before we started recording about, social media ads and things like that. But how are you now evolving? Because it's such a crowded space. Like you're an OG, but there's a lot of businesses and brands out there now. So what is your, I think, game plan for how to cut through the noise and get new people interested and on board with Suntegrity?
I wish we were better at social media. I really do. But yeah, I haven't really dialed that one down to figuring it out. I've tried many things and I don't know. I'm probably not the expert at that. I would say like our biggest marketing is still word of mouth. That's what it's always been. It's through the estheticians that have their regular customers and new customers that, listen to what they have to say and educate them. And it's our current customers referring other people and talking about it. It's just people who love the product talk about it and then refer more people. I mean, we have a very loyal like customer base. The same people who are buying it 15 years ago are the same people buying it today. So, luckily we have that and them telling their friends. We get a lot of social media from the people like the estheticians who wear it and that, but we don't have like big name celebrities who are Instagramming about it. We every once in a while we get somebody who does. It doesn't mean they're not using it. It's just that because we don't have the big ad budget to pay people to say it, it has to be really authentic. So if you hear it, it's authentic. Hey.
Well, your loyal customers are your best influencers. They're the people that are going to buy it every day and recommend it to people. I mean, definitely, still I have friends and family come to me asking me like, "Oh, what should I do about this?" In fact, my neighbor just asked me. She's like, "Do you know of a good curling iron?" And I had to laugh because I'm like, "Really? You have to ask that question?" Like, and not because I know, well, listen, not because I know of a great curling iron, but I'm just leading to the point that your friends and families are still the resource you go to
Yes,
first.
it is. Because and you don't really like nowadays, do you really I don't even know if you really trust what you see on the social media because it has to be an influencer who you really trust because a
It
lot of them are
depends.
getting paid, and So I
Well,
don't.
it depends, but I will let you know. I have tried, some products from my podcast guest in the past, and when I really love them, I do tend to
Yes,
gush over them. And I tell everybody, I said, I am not paid. I get no money for
exactly.
this,
That's why
but
they
I'm letting
trust
you
you
know
because
my
you're not.
my honest to God opinion of this product. I love it. You might love it too, kind of thing. Because I am also a believer that not everything works for everybody, which is
Yes.
fine. But yeah, if I find something, I talk to people about it. Um, in fact, I'm meaning to actually, you're saying social media. Social media is part of my business, Boomtown Marketing. And as you were saying, you're not very good at it. Even myself, we sometimes fall behind because we've been trying to actually do more social media posts about our podcast guests. And we're even falling behind to that. So it's not just you.
Oh, it's like never ending.
It's
There's so
never
much. It is
ending.
so much work to come
It's so
up with
much
like
work.
a teeny clip, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But I'm going to help you with your social media. We will talk offline about that. But you have taught us so much. And I know after this conversation, there are many people listening that do want to try this product. So, first of all, tell us where they can find you and tell us maybe about that little special code we were talking about.
So, and you can find us at suntegrityskincare.com. So it's sun, Suntegrity, suntegrityskincare.com. And we have a special code for it's Wild Party 20 for 20% off your first order at Suntegrity.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. I know there are many listeners out there that are like, I'm going to give that a try. Let me see this product. Because again, you go into a store overwhelmed. In fact, there are certain stores I will not even go into because I'm like, there's too many choices. I cannot sit there and read every single product package. So anyone who's listening out there right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm feeling pretty good about this product already. So go check it out and use your code and let Tricia know that you heard about it on the Wild Party podcast.
Yes.
Because listen, Tricia and Suntegrity have been around for a long time, 15 years now, right? Since the
Yes.
beginning? Yeah.
Yes. We've been for 15
Not a flash
years.
in the
I
pan.
cannot believe it.
No. Well, so what's next for you now? So you're online, you're in these small, the what do you call it? The beauty, we'll call it the beauty spots,
It's like the professional space.
the
So,
professional
yeah.
spaces. Are you also looking into getting into big retailers or are you not worried about that?
Well, we've been in some of the bigger retailers like Nordstrom. We're on freepeople.com, but we're mostly online though, not in the actual store. So as far as growth goes, we're going to be coming out with some more products. I still feel like our best channel is direct to consumer as well as directly to the professional market, which is estheticians. And like we've won awards from Dermoscope magazine, which caters to estheticians, and for a whole variety of our products. So that's kind of the market where we're probably staying in that realm just because that's the best for education for what we do. And then new products coming down the pipeline. We're going to be coming out with a pressed mineral powder, which is zinc oxide, no titanium dioxide, because you don't want titanium in airborne form because it's cancer causing. So you only want it if it's like, so we're not using any powders. So that's going to be coming out in probably next spring. I don't know. It could be earlier, but every time I say a timeline, it always takes longer. And then we're also going to be coming out with mineral drops.
Mineral drops, what are those?
So they look like little milky drops. So you've got a dropper and you can put it in your hand and then you can put that down. They're white in color, but they blend in really well. And then you
Oh,
can put a tint over it. So I'm a big believer in layering sunscreen because most people don't apply enough sunscreen. And if you don't apply enough, you're not getting the SPF that they claim on the packaging. So I like to be, either layer first with the primer and then the 5-in-1 or the impeccable skin. And then, this is going to be these drops. You can start with those and then put sunscreen, tinted sunscreen over the top of it. That way you're ensuring that you're wearing enough. Because if you put enough mineral tinted, you're going to probably look a little too dark.
yeah.
So it's good to have like a white one and then a tinted one over it.
Yeah, a little too discolored, not just dark, but a little discolored maybe.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you something then. Before we close this out, I heard somewhere once that you should put a shot glass size full of sunscreen on. That's how much you use. But I don't remember them
So
ever
that's for
saying,
your
I'm like,
body.
is that just for your whole body or your face?
Whole body.
A
Whole body.
shot glass.
Yeah.
For your whole body.
Yes. And then that's like the 2 to 3 finger rule for your face. So
Huh.
about a quarter of a teaspoon for your face and neck.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot more sunscreen than you think.
It really is now that I'm thinking about it. I don't think I'm using enough sunscreen.
Yeah, most people aren't. Like nobody is really.
Okay, well, while I rethink
But
my
if you layer
application.
and you do 2, you're way more likely to get closer to that amount.
Okay. Okay,
And
so
the good
maybe
thing
with my
about
layering then.
the good thing about mineral sunscreen is it's like if you're out in the sun, then it breaks down. But if you're not in the sun, it's not really breaking down unless you're sort of sweating it off or something or wiping your face. So it probably lasts longer than 2 hours as long as if you're inside, you get a little bit through your window and then you go outside. Unless you're at the beach all day, I don't think you really need to reapply it every 2 hours. But if it's chemical sunscreen, you do. So mineral sunscreen doesn't break down unless the sun is breaking it down.
Wow, I also didn't know that. Thank you for that education. Because yes, I was always like, oh my God, more sunscreen. But I think since I've been in my office most of the day, I should be fine because I do need to take my dog out for his little afternoon walk after this. But with that said, once again, anyone listening to the show out there, my loyal audience, please go check out Tricia and Suntegrity Skincare online. It is suntegrityskincare.com and use the code WILDPARTY20 to get your 20% off the first order so you can check it out because I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited about this. And Tricia, I'm so glad I met you and you shared your journey with us. It has been awesome to talk to you.
You too. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.